We are going to wait just 2 minutes for the rest of the attendees to come into the room. And so we will start promptly at 9:02. And for everybody who's in here, if you could just take a moment and raise your hand if you could see our or PowerPoint slide presentation, I would greatly appreciate it. I just want to make sure y'all can see it. Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Janice. Thank you, everyone. Great. I'm glad you all can see it. All right.
All right, it looks like it is 9:02, and so we'll go ahead and get started. So hello and welcome to Peregrine Global Services webinar, Shut Up and Listen, lesson on leadership communications and active listening. My name is PJ Burns. I'm the Director of Leadership Services here at Peregrine. And joining today is my cohort in crime here is Desiree Moore. Desiree, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you, PJ. Yes, I'm Desiree Moore. I'm the Director of Marketing and Strategic Growth here at Peregrine Global Services. What is interesting about Peregrine Global Services is that we have a long history of providing leadership development training. And so 16 years ago, the company started for that purpose. And then about 10 years ago, we saw a need in higher education and started providing services to our higher education thought partners. And it is because of our expertise in both areas, we're able to kind of converge leadership development and education to provide you with this information today.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us. As we at Peregrine Global Services, part of our mission is to really make a positive effect on the world. And so these webinars help us do this. Thank you for joining us. So today we're going to cover a couple of topics found in our Leadership Communications online module. So you can see that we've got other topics in this module, and we're going to cover just a couple of them. So let's get started. You know, the other day I was preparing for this webinar, and I was sitting in a cafe and thinking about what makes a great listener. And looking around the tables, I could see a few great listeners in that room. So, you know, they were leaning forward, they were nodding and smiling, asking each other questions. You can tell that they wanted to be there and they cared about the person that they were listening to. They weren't glancing at their watches, they didn't have their phones out, and of course there was no computer screens to distract them. But they were taking turns telling their stories and sharing their thoughts, but when they were listening, they were absolutely engrossed in what the other person was saying and not interrupting them. Now, it's impossible for me to say for sure, but I'm imagining that when they were listening, they were not working out the next thing they were going to say to impress their friend or knock down their argument or to win a point. It was really a natural flow of conversation. Now, most of us know how to listen, but why does this seem to evaporate in the workplace? I suspect we've created workplace cultures that emphasize problem solvings and getting the job done quickly and getting through work. When someone asks a question, you know, people are just clamoring to answer it right away and show that they're the fixer, they're that go-to person, or they enter into interrogation mode to get the information so they can just fix that problem right away. Plus, at work, we know there are distractions galore. phones beeping, computer notifications going off, colleagues coming in and out of our office all the time, and all of that is competing for our attention. Yet there are many important times when deep listening is essential. Uh, in the workplace, effective communication is essential for success. In fact, the biggest source for workplace problems, and I might say for problems at home probably, is poor communication. So, what is the key to effective communication? It is to be understood. In fact, that's the goal. Now we can talk and talk and talk and talk until our face is blue, but just as if we were speaking a foreign language, unless the other person fully understands our message, no communication occurred. So let's talk about our message truly being understood. People remember about 10% of what they read, 20% of what they hear, 30% of what they see, and 50%, just half of what they see and hear. Now, 80% of what they themselves say, they remember. And of course, they remember 90% of what they themselves say and do. And if you tell 100 people one thing, if you tell 100 people something without repeating it, after a day, about a quarter of them forget it. Half of them after 2 days, and 75% of them after 72 hours. And what really surprised me is that after a week, almost all of them will forget what you said if you say it without repeating it. So, real communication isn't easy. There are many pitfalls, even in what we think is the most simple message. Think about a time that you were misunderstood. Did an argument ensue? Was a deadline missed? Did a task not get done, or did the wrong task get done? How did that make you feel, and how did that make the other person feel? Let's take a closer look at communicating and really break it down to its fundamental elements. Communication has four basic functions. Um, you may be trying to convey ideas or concepts, plans, conveying work requirements. It can be used to motivate and inspire and direct performance in others. Sometimes it's just to vent, to provide a release for concerns, problems, issues, workplace conflict, perhaps. And many times it's to provide information that's needed to make informed decisions. Communication is a process with the final goal for the message to be understood as intended. So first, the person sending the message decides what they're going to say. You think about the purpose of your communication and the best way to convey it to the other person. What do you want the, the receiver of this message to take away from it? In this step, the speaker will design the communication. What will you say and how will you say it? And then you need to decide what is the best channel or media for your message. Is it complicated information that would be better suited to written format? Is this sensitive or private information that may evoke an emotional response from the receiver? Should this be communicated in person? Should it be communicated in private? It's important, especially when framing a message that may evoke an emotional response from the other person, that the atmosphere around your conversation be taken into account. Next, you send your message, be that by having a conversation or sending an email or a text or meeting by phone or by Zoom or other video conference. Then the other person, the receiver, receives the message and they decode it based on their understanding, based on their experience, their personality style, and of course, their relationship to you. How well do you know each other? How long have you worked together? In order for that communication to be completed, the sender of the message, you need to know that your message was understood as intended, the sender must close that loop by asking if the receiver has understood the message. Now, many times, albeit via a yes or no question, you do ask if the receiver understood. And depending on the relationship you have with that other person, that may be enough. But many times it is not. We either do not ask the receiver if they understood, or we do not take the time to truly close that feedback loop and ensure that they understood the message, including the details, as well as our intent with which it was sent. In order for communication to be completed, the other person must give feedback to the sender stating what message has been received. What is the receiver taking away from your discussion? This feedback loop allows the sender to correct the information if the other person did not receive what you meant. If you can answer all three questions at the bottom of this slide, you will be more likely to experience success in your communication. Is what you sent what you meant? Did you have a conversation maybe when you were upset about something and your tone and body language uh, really conveyed a different message, or maybe you just said something you didn't really mean? Did you use the right media? Did you provide too many details in a face-to-face conversation when writing it down would have made it more effective? And did you close that feedback loop? Did that other person truly understand the message that you sent? We can only say that successful communication has occurred when the message has been understood. Understanding occurs only in the mind of the receiver. And I think that may be one of the most important things I've learned about communication is that understanding only occurs in that other person's world. And closing that feedback loop is critical to ensure that accurate understanding has occurred. So as a listener, how can we make sure that we are understanding the message as intended? Well, as the title of this webinar says, to start, we just need to shut up and listening. Listening, by its nature, is 50% of the communication process. Ask yourself honestly, how well do you listen? There are many times throughout a busy day that I find that I did not stop what I was doing to listen to a coworker, employee, colleague, friend, or even a family member. And when we fail to truly listen, we run the risk of misunderstanding the intention of others, not fully understanding ideas presented to us. We might get confused about what an issue really is about, and we can easily misjudge people. We can fail to follow instructions, we can jump to conclusions, and we can actually upset others by our inattention. There are many barriers to listening. Sometimes we get hooked on a word or two that the other person used. Maybe that word is something that we don't like or that we take offense to. Many of us in our fast-paced world where we're always trying to find a quick solution to a problem will be preparing our answer while the other person is still talking. This happens a lot, especially if we're having an argument with the other person or if we don't value what they're trying to say. Now, we all live busy lives, and I know I find myself thinking about the 10 other things that I need to get done that morning and fail to listen attentively at times. Those are times that we've got our motor running. We are ready to move on to the next thing and aren't paying attention to the person right in front of us. Another barrier is to listen only for facts. Now, body language and tone make up 90% of communication. The words someone uses may not actually carry the message they're intending. So make sure to listen with your eyes to that body language. And at times we may dismiss what the other person is saying to us because we think we already know it or we've heard it before, and therefore we just tune them out. And in doing that, we may possibly miss some important details. Now, Desiree is going to start a poll. So we want to know what barriers to listening are most common to you or that you're most likely to experience.
Yeah, so the poll is up, so you can go ahead and click on the screen to answer the poll. You can answer multiple, you can choose multiple options. So if you find that you're guilty of all of those, then you can answer all of those. As I was looking at these various barriers to listening, I recognized several of them in myself and something I have to work through on a daily basis to overcome. And so you may also experience the same thing, or maybe you're a great listener, and that is wonderful and something you should continue to sustain. All right, so the polls are coming in, or the answers are coming in, and it looks like we have about 67% of you who have voted. I'm just going to give it a moment more to get just a little bit more response. But what's winning right now is preparing my answer. We currently have a lot of you who prepare your answer. So, all right. So I don't want this to disappear. I think I can share with you the results on your screen, but just to make sure, 19% of you said getting hooked on words. 56% said preparing my answer. 44% said motor running, so thinking of everything else you have to do that day. I am very guilty of that one. 44% said listening for facts only, and 31% said, I've heard this before. So I'm going to go ahead and close. Oh, I can share. So I'm going to share that with you. And so you can see those results there. The majority of you either prepare your answers mentally as you're listening, motor run, or listen for facts only. So that level of self-awareness is essential to improving your listening skills. So thank you for answering.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I'm sure there's a few others that we are guilty of, right?
Yes.
When we try to be a better listening. So, our listeners, excuse me. Um, so I'm going to go through a technique to help us to be better listeners and ensure that we are understanding those messages that others are trying to convey to us. Active listening is a technique, and by definition, it means the ability to pick up, define, and accurately respond to the feelings expressed by the other person. It's a communication tool that can reduce defensiveness and it can act to diffuse an emotional exchange. So, a lot of times in customer service or those conversations where the emotions are running high, use this active listening technique. And because when it's employed successfully, people know that they have been understood. And especially when we're trying to diffuse an emotional conversation, uh, just the fact that the other person feels heard can help bring that emotion down by 2, 3, 5 ticks, depending how high it was before. So active listening has 4 steps: listen, question, reflect or paraphrase, and agree. So step 1, of course, is listen. But listen with your entire body, not just your ears. Lean in, look at their body language, listen to their tone of voice, really focus on the speaker. Look them in the eye. Give those nonverbal encouragers like nodding your head, and do your best not to plan on what you're going to reply back, and try not to get distracted by other things going on around you. Step 2 is to question. This is where you're going to gather more information and clarify exactly what they're trying to communicate to you. Ask them open-ended questions like, tell me more, and how did that make you feel? Or then what happened? These types of questions demonstrate to the other person that you are truly listening, and you're really trying to understand what they're trying to tell you. The next step is to reflect or paraphrase back to that person what they have said. But when you paraphrase back, when you reflect back to them, you say what they said, but using your own words. Try to include their feelings that they were portraying to you while they were speaking. Capture the essence of the communication and remove any negativity if you can. This will push you towards problem solving. So, for example, if someone's conveying to you that they have a big concern about a department restructuring, you might rephrase back to them. So, what you're saying is that the uncertainty about who will be your new supervisor is creating a lot of stress for you. Now, understand this is not where you start to offer solutions. This is you, as the listener, closing that feedback loop. And that moves us to step 4 and to confirm that your rephrasing or paraphrasing of their message back to them is correct. So, from that previous example, you would finish by asking them, is this correct? Is this right? And if they agree, then they know that they've been heard and you know that you truly understood what they were trying to convey to you. Here is where you can continue the conversation from there to maybe come to a solution together, to offer them ways to cope with that stress, etc. Now, think about a time in your recent past when you were misunderstood or someone misunderstood you, or when you misunderstood someone or someone misunderstood you. Think about the tools that I've gone over this morning in this webinar that you could employ in the future to help you convey your message more clearly, or to show that other person that you understood them by using the communication and active listening techniques. Now, Desiree is going to come on and let us know if there's any questions through this informational part of the webinar. And then she's going to talk a little bit about how you can communicate more effectively by utilizing our leadership communications module, or many of the other modules that are available that will help you and your staff become better communicators and therefore better leaders. Desiree?
Thank you, PJ. As you were going through the ways that you can be a better listener, I was actually thinking about my mentor. And something I realized it wasn't that long ago is that after years of conversations with her in which I expressed frustration or issues or problems that I was trying to solve, I realized that not once did she offer me a solution, right? I mean, she gave me plenty of advice along the way, but a lot of times she would say, well, I bet that makes you feel, or does that make you feel? And she would say, what is the solution? And she would ask me for the solution, and I would come up with the solution right there. And for ages, I thought that she was guiding me through life, but really she was just guiding me through my own thought processes. And that really is the power of active listening, is that you would empower the people that you work with and become a better mentor. So I was just caught by that, and I wanted to share that experience with everyone. But I'll get on to leading edge learning, which you will all be excited to hear about. So, leading edge learning is simply a portfolio of online modules that can be mixed and matched to support the development of 8 key workplace competencies. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about these competencies because they were developed by the National Association of Colleges and Employers. What happened is NACE, for short, got together with colleges and employers from all over and tried to dial down what are the most important things, the skills, the personal attributes that people need to have in order to be successful in work and in life. And so they decided that, or they determine that students or colleges really need to help students develop these competencies so that they can be successful in the workplace. And employers said, yes, we need to develop our current employees to have these skills or these competencies. And they include critical thinking and problem solving, oral and written communication, teamwork and collaboration, digital technology, leadership, which we're talking about communication and leadership today, professionalism and work ethic, career management, and global or intercultural fluency. And what's really interesting about kind of our framework for leading edge learning is that this is a challenge for many employers and higher education institutions, right? They're challenged with these competencies and saying, how do we ensure that our workforce is strong because they exhibit these personal attributes, right? And so we're in the game of solutions. Peregrine is passionate about providing solutions to you. So that is why we have developed self-guided online modules that help reinforce these competencies and the skills development that you need to build a strong workforce. So the modules we have for leadership development include there's a long list of them, as you can see, but they're anywhere from, you'll see 3 to 5 hours all the way up to 60 hours per module. And these are self-guided, they are online, they're very dynamic, and we have a variety of topics. And these all support that one competency under the NACE 8, which we just discussed, leadership. And the information that you learned today actually came from our leadership communications module. And so if you would like to learn more about our leadership communications module, if you'd like to acquire it, then please let us know. We could easily get you set up today to start that module, and you'll have access to that content and be able to grow as a leader and grow your communication skills. So a little bit more about the modules and why they are just so neat is that they all consist of a combination of video, audio, text, activities, and quizzes, which make learning more engaging. The presence of the multimedia content reinforces concepts as they are introduced. And so not only are you reading the information and gaining new knowledge or remembering new knowledge and understanding new knowledge, but you're really able to revisit it and analyze it, and so that way you can later put it into practice. Also, the modules are well organized. They're easy to navigate, and it'll show you what's completed and what needs to be completed. And you have access to the instructional material for up to 2 years, so you can revisit that at any time. I find this to be really unique because I have signed up for courses before, but I only have 6 weeks to complete them. And with my busy schedule, sometimes I'll be really excited to start a course and do some professional development. Something will happen, I'll get off track for a month or two, and then I've lost access to my materials. So having access for 2 years is a huge benefit. Also, the modules consist of 4 to 8 sections each. So if you decided you wanted to take advantage of leadership communication, you'll see that there's 4 to 8 sections within that module. Each section includes is separated into various topics, and at the end of each section, you are presented with a short section review, again reinforcing those concepts and ensuring that you're understanding them, and also understanding where you may have missed something important that you want to go back and revisit. And we do have some applications and best practices for how people use our leadership development modules. If you're in higher education, you could utilize them to enhance a course. If you're in business and industry, they are a great method of professional development, especially since they're self-guided and you don't have to coordinate all of these people and their schedules, and you can kind of choose the modules that fit best for that person and their individual needs, depending on where you're at your performance management. Um, and here are just all of the applications and best practices. And so they also help with career ready, if there's a career readiness course or any career type activities that are happening to prepare someone for the workforce or enhance somebody's position within the workforce. And so we do have the simple service integration. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because we have a mixed audience. We have some people from business and industry. We have some people from higher education. If you are in higher education, our modules do integrate into a learning management system. We have 3 very flexible purchase options to help you implement this within your program or your course. These modules can easily take the place of textbooks. I think they're a lot richer than textbooks because they include the multimedia piece of it. And so if you are interested in learning more about how you could integrate this into a program or course, please reach out to us. We do have a tutorial on leading edge learning. The tutorial does a very comprehensive review of the entire service. So all of the modules, all of the solutions they provide, all of the competencies that we support through the creation of these modules. And so if you'd like access to that, please email us at info@peregrineglobal.com or give us a call. We are here for you today. Pricing for our modules depends on the size of the module. So it's dependent on learner hours. As you saw, some of them are 3 to 4 hours. Some of them are as many as 30 or 60 hours, and so they're priced differently depending on the size. But we do want to work with you. To create a solution that addresses your organization's unique challenges, goals, and time frame. So regardless of if you're using it for professional development or to enhance a course in higher education, we'll work with you to determine just the best way to utilize these modules and integrate them into your work. And if you aren't familiar with us, we do, like I said, we're in the business of solutions. We provide so many solutions to both higher education and business and industry. And so we provide assessments for both audiences, just depending on which assessment you're looking at. Instructional solutions, we discussed some of those today, and then accreditation solutions, which are really focused on our higher education market. But if you see anything here that you want to learn more about, again, reach out to us. We are your thought partner. We're here for you, and we want to help you change the world by enhancing the quality of education and developing values-based leaders. And then just a little bit more about us. We've talked to you a lot about active listening, and we've talked to you about our modules, but I want to express who we are as an organization, so you know kind of who you're working with, right? Who you're interacting with. That's important. And so we, as I said, we serve academics, leadership, and then we also have publications for both audiences, of course. We believe that we're catalysts for change. We aim to change the world. We believe we can contribute to improving the quality of education. We develop value-based leaders who make a difference in this world. We lead change by leveraging a diversity of talented people across a broad spectrum of disciplines, backgrounds, experiences, and cultures. Our team is quite robust and does have a lot of expertise, and we're here to provide you with a consultative approach. We do believe that together, you and us, we can change the world. And so here is our contact information. We will email you today to follow up after this webinar, provide you with any resources that you may need. If you want a recording, or we will send you a recording of the webinar, but if you need anything else, of course, respond to us and let us know. And we'll continue to engage with you and help you come up with a solution that is right for you and your organization. All right.
Well, thanks, Desiree. Really appreciate you going through all of that, and absolutely watch for our follow-up email, and just our most sincere thanks for taking time out of your busy days and listening to us as we talked about how to improve our communications as well as our listening. So go to our website at peregrineglobal.com and check out all of the free webinars that we have coming up in the future, and we hope you join us again. Take care.
Thank you.